Welcome, everyone, to the California State Athletic Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 14, 2017. Cesar, raise your hand. He asked me to remind you, and I will continue to remind you to speak into the microphone as people are listening.
Thank you.
So I have called the meeting to order. Now we can stand, pledge allegiance. Please. Please begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Foster, I know you were trying to get in contact with Commissioner Lynn. Do you know if you had any success?
No, sir.
Okay, well, we'll continue to try so she can monitor. She will not be eligible to vote. She's not here, but she can certainly be a part of the discussion if you can get her connected. Okay. Mr. Foster, would you please call the roll to section 4?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Carvelli,
Here.
Vice Chairman Lane is absent today. Commissioner Frierson,
Here.
Commissioner Senior Quinez, Commissioner Souder,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Ayala.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum, 6 commissioners.
Thank you, sir. As an opportunity for me to make a couple of remarks. I don't necessarily have a state of the commission prepared for this meeting, but I would like to say, and I will take this as a direct quote from a letter from the Department of Consumer Affairs that we're going to talk about in a little while, that in summary, as far as the fiscal standing and integrity of this athletic commission, quote, the commission's fund is in good standing with a healthy reserve, and revenues are exceeding actual expenditure levels. I think that says it all, and we want to, again, recognize the work that you do to maintain this economic good health of the California State Athletic Commission. One of the things that will not be a shock to commissioners, anyone here in this room perhaps might be, you've all noticed we're attending particularly MMA events this past year, recently, and into this year, or if you're following them on Instagram or Facebook or in the news, you will notice what seems to me, I don't know if it's inordinate, I won't use that term, but let's just say a lot of fighters withdrawing or bouts not being able to go forward due to weight issues. Weight cutting, making weight, and it's predominant. And I hope that we're going to get a chance to talk about that today several times. We'll hear from commissioners on their thoughts on this, but certainly it goes to the work that we've been doing in the past, Andy, to address these issues, to prevent this from happening. This, other than the obvious safety issues of perhaps good-intentioned, promoters incentivizing fighters to join a weight class that they may not be ready for or able to maintain or achieve. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about things we can do to help these fighters, to educate, to put some perhaps more, policy or information out there for these folks, because it's not just the promoters and the fighters, it's all of the work that you do, Andy and our team, to prepare for these events, and for the amazing, great California fight fans that show up at these events only to find out that the main event has been canceled, and all those things that are just kind of the unfortunate consequences of, I guess, in the end, trying to make weight that they have no business trying to make. So I just put that out there, something that I noticed, and I know you all noticed, and I think we're going to get a chance to talk more about that today by Dr. Williams, and I'm sure Matt will be talking about it. So that kind of concludes my comments. It all goes under the heading of, our mission, what we're here for. And so I look forward to that discussion and what we can do to work on it. So with that, we could go right to agenda item number 3, the approval of December 16, 2016 commission meeting minutes. Mr. Forster.
Mr. Chairman, I have several corrections to these minutes I'd like to bring to your attention. This was in conjunction working with Commissioner Senior Quidez, Commissioner Lehman, and myself. I got a correction here on page 4 in the United States Fight League. That should say Mr. John Frank presented the commission with Mr. Charlie Wong, Agency for Student Health Research. He presented a PowerPoint presentation on Complete Safe and USFL's plan to comply with AB 2007 regarding the concussion protocol. So I'm going to make those corrections. That's the way that should read. The second change, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add it to the record, and we'll make the change regarding the discussion of unified rules of mixed martial arts. I would like it also noted for the Commissioner's record that the MAC also voted unanimously to recommend approval of these rule changes.
The MAC being
The Advisory Committee on Medical
Necessities.
And then from Commissioner Senior Quidez, she would like added to page 2, agenda item 5, which I read and I think it's a good addition to. She said, please add Commissioner Senior Quidez thank the DCA and Budget Office for working so closely with the Commission. Senior Quidez has several questions concerning the difference between numbers that appear in the pro rata and the DCA's audit and the actual pro rata charge to the commissions. Why there are incremental changes, where they come from, where the CSAC is paying for services we don't utilize. Senior Quidez asked whether any of the charges can be scaled based on CSAC utilization. Concerns for CSAC regarding any expenditures in fairness and predictability. Being able to anticipate increases early is important. CSAC's revenue is tied to legislation and cannot be changed without legislative initiative. Commissioner Senior Quidez therefore requested the Budget Office have discussions with CSAC in advance so that CSAC can properly budget changes. Mr. Schick felt this is a good idea. I thought that would be very favorable and agreed to set up a meeting early in the year. Chairman Carvelli asked Mr. Foster to work with Mr. Schick to set this meeting up. That's the change to page 2. Page 3, therapy use exemption transgender to go into effect January 1st, 2017. Pension fund update in the last paragraph. It was noted that Commissioner Aiello.
Where are you on pension fund update?
Page 5, sir.
Is this the report from Cyril Shaw paragraph?
The pension fund update, the subcommittee update.
Oh, there it is, agenda item 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please add the last paragraph. It was noted that Commissioner Aiello has done outreach by going to radio to speak to the Hispanic and Latino community about the existence of the pension fund. Commissioner Senior Quidez also attended the California Boxing Hall of Fame banquet and made a presentation to the attendees about the pension fund.
Okay, great.
Then on page 5, from Cyril Shaw, Raymond James. Commissioner Senior Quidez asked Mr. Shaw how often they look at allocations and whether they have a particular target rate of return. Mr. Shaw responded that they look at allocations once or twice a year, and they do have a target rate of return. However, this is different than the normal 401k retirement plan. Commissioner Senior Quidez asked whether the expectation is that at some point the pension plan needs to be looked at as we are looking to pay out more. Chairman Carvelli asked whether we can rely on the current trend of the plan over the next 5 years. Mr. Shaw said it depends on the market rate, whether we find a lot more boxers and a lot of factors. Chairman Carvelli said we need a contingency plan. Commissioner Senior Quidez said we don't have a plan, and it seems that we need a plan because if the interest rate goes down and or a lot of boxers are found and collect on the plan, then we may be in trouble. Vice Chairman Lane asked why would that be? Commissioner Senior Quidez stated for the sake of the boxers, we would always want a pension plan for which the boxers could collect what they are entitled to collect, so we would have a plan to increase our pool of funds. Commissioner Sauer
Hold on,
suggested,
hold on. Martha, is that the way that you
Mhm.
do it? What is that? What do you-
So this is straight from the YouTube.
Oh, so you're literally taking it, gotcha, okay. If I said those things,
Yes.
I can't recall.
We're
what I
very good
said.
about it.
Okay, good.
Commissioner Sauer suggested that we have our counselor prepare a 5-year contingency plan with 25% more boxes of peer and 25% more peer. And if the pension plan goes in the red, what can we do to help those doctors? Sir, those are the changes.
Thank you. I think we need a motion, and we're going to have a discussion, right? So I need a motion to approve the December 16, 2016 minutes, please.
I so move.
Second, Commissioner Shanakia's motion, second by Commissioner Sauer. Discussion, Commissioners Dr. Williams and Commissioner Ferguson. Any comments on the minutes? Commissioner Shanakia, anything more? Thank you for that work that you did there. Commissioner Sauer, anything in the minutes?
No.
As a roll call vote, is good?
Yes, also, any members of the
Thank you. Would any members of the public like to comment on the meeting minutes? Mr. Patchell, come forward, introduce yourself. Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Greg Patchell, also known as Taja. Yeah, I had to come to this meeting. I watched the last meeting on another webcast. And the first complaint I have is how Mr. Stalker really did some racial rants against the Irish police. And
Greg, before you continue on, you can comment on every item, you know that.
yeah, that was an item on the commission.
Do you have comments on these meeting
I
minutes?
do have,
Okay.
but that's one of my complaints.
Okay, all right.
Okay, in the meeting, this addresses to all the sanctioning bodies. You have the IKF, you have CAMO, you have USFL, and you have the USA Boxing. CAMO's here, USFL is here, boxing never shows up.
I'm sorry.
You're here? Okay, good. And all these organizations are required to be a nonprofit, correct?
Hang on, you get to make your comments.
Okay.
It's not a Q&A.
I'll make my comments.
Okay.
Okay, all these guys are nonprofits except for IKF. They're a for-profit organization. You guys forced USFL to be a nonprofit, and CAMO had to be a nonprofit, but IKF is a for-profit organization. That's one question I had on that. Also, all these organizations they control, the USA Boxing controls adults and kids. IKF, for kickboxing, they oversee the adults and they oversee the kids. You have split adult pancreation to CAMO, who has never held a pancreation tournament since they took over since 2010. USFL does the kids. Why does USFL do kids and why does CAMO do adults? Why is that split up? Should be one organization handling pancreation, both adults and both kids. My other thing is that AB 2007. The AB 2007 is really selective enforcing Greek martial arts. Greek wrestling has to abide by it. They have to get concussion tests, and Greek pancreation has to go by it, and they don't even hit the head. So in California, if I unintentionally strike the head, unintentionally, it's full contact. If I intentionally strike the head, it is light contact. I don't understand that. So I can do a spinning heel kick to
30
the head.
seconds on this one.
A spinning heel kick, that's like my heel hitting the head, and you guys say it's light contact. If I miss the head, it's full contact and it has to be regulated. Pancreation should not be under jurisdiction of the California State Athletic Commission or anybody. Pancreation is a light contact martial arts. They do not strike the head at all.
10-second wrap up, please.
Okay, Kyokushinkai karate. I can go do a Kyokushinkai karate tournament tomorrow. And I can do a flying knee to the head.
That's 3 minutes on this one.
Okay, I can do a flying knee to the head, or I
Right,
can kick the head as hard as I want, and it's like contact.
why don't you come back to the next
The
item?
pancreation, I'm addressing all the different issues.
Do you have your 3 minutes now? Then you can come back. There'll be other opportunities for you to, because you have issues all over the place. Why don't you do that? Why don't you come back in the next item?
Okay,
Okay?
there's one more. Yeah, I went over that already. The intentional and
You can come
unintentional.
back up.
Okay.
Okay, hit your,
All right, thank
your
you.
notes. Okay. Any other members of the public would like to speak on the commission meeting minutes, for December 16, 2016? Seeing none, please call the roll for the vote.
Chairman Carbone,
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson. Aye. Commissioner Senior Quidez,
Aye.
Commissioner Sauber,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Aiello.
Aye.
6-0, sir.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, Business and Professions Code, Section 18640.5 requires the commission to invite stakeholder testimony in commission meetings in order to identify actions that may lead to greater opportunities for licensees to participate in major professional boxing events. So at this time, we welcome any comments by anyone here who would like to comment particularly on opportunities for participation in more major events here in California. Seeing no one stand to be recognized, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 5, the Executive Officer's Report. Andy, maybe for the sake of information and transparency, when you get to the delegated entities, they can talk about the status of their not-for-profit status or whatever, so they can update for the record their compliance with the rules. Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll start with the budget update. This may be a little bit longer than normal because the governor's budget was just released. I don't know if the commissioners are where we're at. Commissioners, through fiscal month 7, and fiscal month 8 will be out tomorrow, but through fiscal month 7, Commissioners deposited $934,623 in support fund, and has spent $852,594. The fund balance currently stands at $1,127,960, about 7.5 to 8 months of reserve. I know where the revenues are at through today. I feel confident that that we're in good financial standing. The governor's budget was released, and of note, for next year, the proposed budget for the commission is $1,669,000. Of note on that is we've had $2,000 coming out for a breeze DCP. This is a department-wide budget change proposal. That's a small amount of money. $8,000 came out for drug testing, and that was expected. We had $7,000 that was added to the budget to handle the employee retirement rate. The big increase is $61,000 in department department costs was added to the budget from the DCA side. The statewide pro rata is interesting because it's been removed from the budget, but it does not mean that we're not required to pay it. In fact, it's increased from $78,000 to $100,000 for fiscal year 17-18.
Excuse me, sir. Can you show on this page the commissioner's budget summary?
Oh,
So commissioners, behind one of the blue pages in this week, agenda item 5 is that document.
it's the budget
It's the
summary
budget summary.
for the governor's budget. Yes, sir.
Might want to take a look at that. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes, sir. And then we have another $1,000 which is coming back from another Breeze GCP, and then like a solid training type PCP. And again, these are department-wide budget changes. They're not-
We're going to talk about pro rata because it's part of your report and it's agendized for discussion. But also, it occurs to me it might be helpful for the commissioners as and myself to go through the process of understanding government budget and how this budget process works. Government budget comes out in January, then the legislature goes through all their hearings, and then there's a revise in May, approximately mid-May. It's called a May revise when the budget comes back out, and then 30 days later it's approved. So that's the California state budget process. So this is a proposed budget that includes our next fiscal year numbers.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Including the budget change orders and that's
That's correct.
So we should stop and ask questions it'll help give you a background to understand maybe the pro rata process. Folks,
I've got questions.
I know you do, good, so that's the idea. We're not done with this issue, obviously. Yes, sir. Okay.
So the first question I have is, I don't understand how, what is the significance of that, of taking the pro rata out of the budget? Like, taking it out as a line item, but we still owe it. I don't understand that. Because isn't that like a lack of transparency? I mean, we still owe it. So shouldn't that be part of the appropriation? What is the meaning of
Right.
doing it that way?
Right. So, before I answer you directly, Andy does, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you ready to talk about the pro rata?
Oh, sure,
Okay,
sir.
all right. So, Martha gets right down to, I think, the key question. So, if you see in the letter here, commissioners, and Andy sent to me, was basically, Martha, your questions that you asked at the last meeting, and we saw this budget proposal come out. So I asked Andy to answer some questions, and it's in the form of that letter that he sent to me. That's in the packet here, right, Andy?
Yes, sir. It's I think it's right before the one you were looking at, the governor's budget.
Right before you go to the budget page. Okay, there it is, the February 14 letter.
This one.
Yes, yeah, so that's been in your packet. So that was the initial response that I got, best as Andy could give it, prompting. And I knew this would be a process, so I was kind of getting the process started for us. We had a call with Taylor and Christine Lally, Taylor Schick and Christine Lally. And so let's talk about that. Let's let Andy answer Commissioner Shinniki's question. But I also add this as something that is more background on government budgeting. So the Department of Finance is under the executive branch in state government. And it's the Department of Finance that has this list of regs that they basically overlay on every process. So a lot of the stuff which we perceive as discretion, particularly by Department of Consumer Affairs, they do not have. So you're going to learn more about that. Again, under the heading of government budgeting. So Andy, why don't you answer Commissioner Shinniki's question about the state pro rata versus the department program?
So I think the question you asked is why was it removed even though we still have to pay it?
Right.
My honest answer to that is I do not know. And not for the sake of, I mean,
Are we talking about the state pro rata? There's two pro rata.
there's two programs.
One was removed, the
The
state
state
pro.
pro rata
Right.
is,
That was zeroed out.
but we still owe it.
No.
Yes,
Well, how?
they're gonna take it directly from our fund at the end of the year.
It says it's not, it will not be an individual budget item, but we still owe it. We still have to pay it, right?
It's reclassified under the department's pro rata, and what we call that.
No, sir, it's not been reclassified, it's just gonna be taken directly from the fund.
Okay.
So it just doesn't appear, it's not booked, in other words. So in the private world, it would just,
Yeah.
it would just,
There's no parallel, I can tell.
so it just makes no sense to me
Right.
because it's not booked, it doesn't appear anywhere as a line item. However, it's just taken out. So really, let's say for argument's sake that we have a budget of 1.7 million and the statewide tax is 200,000. But it doesn't show anywhere that we owe 200,000, so suddenly we have $1.5 million. It's just gone.
And I'm following, I mean, and commissioners, I hope that she's correct. I mean, what I look at as the executive officer is this, and I'm just, the revenue, the fights come from revenue. I'm looking at fights. How many fights do we need? What can we get? And we're at $1,669,000. So really think of it as $1,779,000, $1,769,000, $100,000 more. That's what we're going to need to bring in to break even.
But that's not okay because it needs to appear somewhere so that we can square that.
I couldn't agree more. And I really think in any documents we prepare illustrating our budget, we should list it even if they don't. I mean, I think it's quite preposterous to have a sum of money of that size in terms of proportion of our overall budget to vanish. It just doesn't exist, but it's coming out of our capacity.
I mean, we have to make that money, we have to earn it, and we get taxed. It's just gone, and it doesn't appear anywhere. And
Well,
it shows up someplace else.
Why don't we just send them a blank check, in effect, and say, we didn't see it, you don't see it, and move on. But I really think that just for clarity, for a sense of fairness, of accurate representation, we should reflect it in any figures we do, illustrating to the commission or the public our budget.
Unless I'm misunderstanding something.
Well,
Is that what
yeah.
they're saying?
It's not a misunderstanding, Martha. I think we're diving into a process looking for transparency. And I've had to, just like you're thinking, I know you are, kind of suspend this, try comparing it to the way that we used to budgeting, right?
Yeah,
A gap accounting, right?
right. This
It
is
doesn't,
not
it
gap.
doesn't translate. It does not. So this is government accounting. And what I was trying to understand, and it's going to take another meeting. I think it would be a useful meeting because to get maybe even if that's a good idea, that we both just point it out. Perhaps that you could, Andy, as you get more involved in the process, show these numbers to us, even if it's not coming out of Sacramento in that sense. But one of the things that I have asked again and again, keep getting, is that apparently there's a set of metrics that they're using.
But
Right,
we
and
don't
it's
know.
that we don't know what those ratios are, what those formulas are. But Taylor did volunteer, Taylor said that we could get involved in that process. So I have been encouraging that, and then we could maybe, if you wanted to do a deeper dive into that, understand it. I also understand that we're not being treated differently from any other, commission or agency or board or anything like that. There's a lot of metrics that they just go through. So
Okay.
I do want to, one thing, and not stay on this topic that you're bringing up, but I think it's important, but the concern that Andy kept talking about to all of us was his staffing, right? Resources for staffing. So you'll have enough to, fill a position, how's that going to impact all this and stuff. And one of the things that I've taken out of this process so far is that we should go, in fact, you should go ahead and do that staffing that you need to create more events, right? And that's how the revenue will come in. And not sit here kind of in the blind, full, or blind, and not know how you're going to be affected by what you're going to take out of that. You have to go ahead and fill your positions, do your job, and, that kind of thing. So, I think that's one thing that I've come away with this pro rata process, is that if you don't spend it, they're going to take it, I guess is what I'm talking about.
But there's like there's another side to that, and that is they tax us based on authorized personnel, which is currently 7.5, something like that, right?
I believe that's correct.
But we actually only have, how many
I
people?
think 6.5. I'm going to fill the vacancy.
Okay.
Commissioner, Chairman Corbell is talking about it.
Andy, would you please answer a little
Into the
higher?
mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm planning on filling the vacancy that Chairman Corbell mentioned.
And so according to this, they're going to then increase us by another or they're just gonna so I kind of didn't get this. They're going to let us fill that vacancy, or it looks like they're going to give us another authorized employee and then let us fill a vacancy.
No, it's just that we're going to fill the vacancy. We haven't asked for another.
Because
Apparently those two things aren't tied with the way they do their pro rata.
it says for 17-18, then we're going to increase to 8.5.
Yeah, that's the vacancy. But
So that means if you're going to fill that vacancy, then they're going to increase to 8.5 so they can tax us more.
It's not what I understand. Let me try to answer you, and I think this is part of the answer. So go to the letter that came last night
Okay.
from the Department Budget Office, from Taylor Schick. If you look at the fourth paragraph,
Okay.
it's the last sentence. Pro rata is always fully budgeted for the commission, and the commission will never have to redirect existing budget authority to cover the cost of pro rata. I think it's two separate things. I don't think they're related. I mean, we need to fill our positions and spend our authority to do what we need to do. And they're going to make their calculations and apply their formula no matter either way. You know where it could affect us, Martha? I think on our reserve fund. That's where it would affect us.
absolutely.
See, my understanding is that the pro rata tax is based on two separate functions. One is authorized personnel, and the other one is utilization of services. And this letter the letter that came last night is based on utilization of services. And this other letter, the one that I have on the February 14th one, is based on, well, at least the second page, this 8.5 is authorized personnel.
But yes, sir, I wrote that letter. That was my understanding at the time, that it did have to do with authorized positions.
So if they're going to increase us to 8.5, that just means that portion of the pro rata may increase.
No, that's not what I understand. Taylor corrected that in this
Okay.
yesterday's letter. Is what I'm trying, hopefully explaining, as long as I understand it, to you too, so you can get to it, understand it.
See, this letter to me just said that they're going to, this is like Greek. This letter to me tells me they're giving us money back because they charged us too much over the last few years because we've tightened our belt and our budget our spending authority actually decreased. So because of that, they needed to give us Correct.
They needed to provide funding, now they're taking it back. I guess is one way to look at it, I understand what you're saying. But again, I don't know if any of that matters because I think these are two separate things. I think the more pro rata you take will affect our reserve fund, but our reserve fund is solid right now. We need to continue to staff up and strengthen our ability to get more events, therefore more revenue. And they're going to apply this formula. I think we need to dive into the formula and the metrics. And that'll help, I think, us, particularly you and me, understand how they're coming up with these numbers. We don't have enough information as we sit here. But I felt better about knowing that, the existing budget authority to cut, it will never affect that.
Okay.
It's not, and so that's good. So that means spend what you're given appropriately as you do, continue to maintain our reserve fund, and for heaven's sake, get us some more events, Andy, come on.
To that end, sir, just to not to belabor this point, but I want to go back to what you said. Where this is going to hit, where this is going to hit the commissions on the fund condition, on the reserve fund.
Right.
Okay, so if you turn to the third page of Taylor's letter, you'll see the revenue projection. I can almost assure you, as your executive officer, that we are not going to hit that revenue projection this year. I almost assure you of that. Okay, unless something major happens that I don't foresee in the next few months. And I've got the schedule.
Explain what number you're referring to for those.
The revenue of $1,986,000. Okay, because if you see the $1,919,000 transactions from last year, that was a record year for this athletic commission. Okay? It's a record year. Okay, so and I certainly speak to the budget office about this. Past performance doesn't necessarily mean future performance. The fight industry is based on these fights, and I know where we're at now, and I know we're not going to beat that. So that fund reserve, now I do think we're going to break even or maybe be somewhat revenue positive. I don't think we could lose a little, we could break even, or we could be up, but it's not going to be up that much. Okay, I can assure you that. So it's just something to think about. I mean, for every year I've been your executive officer, our fund reserve has increased. I'm letting you know with these new expenses. I mean, I'm going to spend appropriately, like you said, we'll do what we said, but I can see the fund reserve going the other direction soon.
Which, you have, what's the amount in the reserve?
$1,127,000.
Which represents 12 plus months of reserve?
7.5 days.
So 8 months.
That's okay.
That's okay,
Yeah.
right. That's why it's there in the
Yeah.
balance. Okay. So Martha, more on this, perhaps another follow-up meeting. Perhaps you'd like to follow up now and dig into the metrics, the ratios.
Yeah,
They
whatever you
offered,
need.
they offered that to us.
Okay.
So,
Because it's very confusing.
would you help Commissioner Shanakis to follow up with the folks over there in his office?
Be happy.
Perhaps get her to be part of the process as they've offered. Because the more knowledge and transparency, obviously, the better it's going to be for everyone. So,
Yeah, whatever you need.
Be happy to, sir.
thank you. Good. Commissioner Allen, do you have
No, I mean, I just think that my own comment is that this letter dated March 13th, and it kind of explains the whole process. To me, it seems pretty straightforward. But then again, I did work in state government for about 3 years, and federal government for another year, so I mean, it's kind of the standard. And if you look at the paragraph on page 2 out of 3, it starts by saying, I want to address the commissioner's statewide pro rata over the last several years. And with those tables, I mean, to me, it sounds like, first of all, it's a percentage of total expenditures for each fund. The pro rata is based on that. And then it also goes on to explain that the adjustments that were made in the years 2012, 13, and 13, 14 were based on the commission's reduction of expenditures in half in comparison to the baseline previous years. So to me, those tables, if you look at the CSAC statewide pro rata, 14, 15, 15, 16, and actually it's an asterisk, right? There's a roll forward credit, which is why it was so much lower than 16, 17, which is 77,000 plus change. And it looks like from last year to this year, I mean, there's an increase of about 20 something thousand. Like 20,000. So if you look at that second sentence in that paragraph, statewide pro rata is allocated by the Department of Finance to each state department's funding sources based on, here's a key, percentage of total expenditures in each fund. So again, and then I think you all mentioned that we're not the only commission that's being subjected to this.
Right, we're not
This process,
Right.
it's the whole thing. And I would say that if we're going to take any action, we should look at this information, and if we're going to address anybody, I think we have a new Department of Consumer Affairs director who actually served on this commission, understands the work of this commission, and I think we'd have an advocate there in Mr. Rufilo in looking and advocating for a different kind of budget or pro rata, if that's what we're going after. I mean, that would be my next step if we really want to take some action towards making a change. Those are my 2 cents.
Thank you. Commissioners, anybody else want to comment on this pro rata discussion to be continued? Andy, continue your report, please.
Yes, just to finish up on the budget report, I want to let you know that our budget change proposal that I wrote for consideration is approved. This budget change proposal is different from a direct appropriation increase. The last few years, we've had at least the last couple of years, we've had some issues where we run into near the end of the year, and then suddenly a lot of high-profile, large, expensive to regulate events pop up at the very last minute. We're low in appropriations. Last year, I really had to do some juggling to fix this, and the department actually they suggested this. This is an allocation. This is a budget change proposal that lets me go and ask the Department of Finance for some additional appropriation. And they get approval for that, and then it allows me to increase the spending authority for regulation of events only. Okay, for inspector costs, for travel costs, drug testing. This is not for staffing. This is not for those type of things. It's simply for regulation of events. Also, in the same proposal, working with Mike, we've been on this, is asked for 50,000 additional for the neurological testing program. We've been running C3 Logics. We're on track with that. We'll be hearing about that a little bit later today. But to have the resources that we need to really make this thing go, I requested an additional 50,000 out of that fund. That was granted. But of course, this money will only be spent in an as-needed basis, and I'll certainly let the commissioners know if I ask for that authorization. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my budget report, unless you have questions.
I think we're ready to keep moving.
Sir, so Sophia's not here today, so I'm going to do the regulation report myself. So I'm just going to run through it, and feel free to interrupt me. The payment of contestants, rulemaking file was published by OAL on August 12th, 2016. The public hearing was held on September 26th.
Speak into the mic.
Okay. The final package was submitted to legal counsel for review and approval on October 31st, 2016. You got that?
Yes.
Okay.
Our office does. When it goes through legal review, it doesn't just go through me. We have a regulations coordinator, Veronica Rollins, And it's also reviewed by my immediate supervisor, Kurt Kepler, and ultimately by Dorita Johnson, our Deputy Director of Legal Affairs. Our Deputy Director of Legal Affairs. So it is in our office now. Quite frankly, the feedback that I've gotten from some of my colleagues is that we simply have to beef up our rationale and the figures showing the current exploitation of contestants.
Okay, the examination of boxer applicants and neurological assessment, that's a separate item on the agenda today. The headgear final rulemaking file was approved by the department and agency on 1/26/2017 and submitted for OAL for final review and approval on February 10th. Okay. Waiting time, physical examinations, dehydration, rehydration. Rulemaking file was published on July 29th, and a public hearing was held on September 12th, 2016, and the final package was submitted to the department for approval on October 31st, 2016. And in the technical zone, after the last changes that were made to the proposed language by the commission, and after really extensive conversation with Mr. Duke and others, it was determined that the commission does indeed have the authority to require this already. Having said that, I can tell you exactly what it is. I drafted a pretty extensive memo, sent it to every lead inspector, copy the positions, and when you show up in an event in the technical zone, that should be taken care of. Certainly, going to have to raise opposition training, that'll be covered up, coming up as well. Chairman Carvelli, regarding the delegated entities, just moving along the report. I don't know if Mr. Steele's here.
Good morning, Chairman Carvelli, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Councilor. J.D. Steele, President of CAMO. Happy to report to you today, answer any questions that you have about CAMO and the programs we have here in California. Our safety report has been fantastic. We've had no injuries of concern for the Commission to be aware of. We've also made it through the financial slowdown of our industry that happens every year through December, January, February. And we're off to a great start in 2017 so far. In fact, it has been years since we've seen the volume of athletes and getting licensed to compete manager in May that we're seeing right now. So, although it's a month-by-month year for us, it is trending upwards right now, which is a great thing for our sport. And this Saturday is actually the busiest Saturday that we've had in maybe 7 years, which is fantastic. So, 5 events just on Saturday alone. So March is off to a great start for us. We instituted something about 6 months ago. We changed the way that we did the California State Championship. We had a tournament every year in years past, where it was a large tournament. People come from around the state to win the California State Championship belt. We've created a linear championship belt now, meaning that in order to get the state championship belt, you have to beat the state champion. And it's been well accepted in our industry. It's sorry for the feedback in the microphone. The S's are carrying pretty hard, pretty harsh. It's creating more championship opportunities for our athletes, which the more structure that we provide the amateurs, the more impactful the program is. They have reason to fight.
So did you say you have to be a state champion in order to become a state champion?
To become the state champion, you have to beat the state champion. You have to earn the belt by beating the person who carries the belt. Makes sense? In each weight class. So in doing so, rather than having a tournament once a year where the state championship is on the line, it allows athletes to potentially get that championship belt in a quicker, more efficient way to move on to their professional career rather than waiting a whole year before they can become a state champion, which a lot of them is their goal as an amateur. So that's been exciting. We've been excited about the way that has been going forward. We have a new website coming out. It's actually the 4th version of our website. It's just going to allow more functionality, more filters that are going to further facilitate the ability for the athletes and promoters to connect in a more efficient manner. Also gives us more administrative control, which is great. We hope to launch that in the next couple of months. Although web development is notoriously unpredictable, I feel confident that it'll launch well. It also has more mobile capabilities, so our athletes can get licensed just simply on their iPhone or their smartphone, which will make it easier for them to submit documents into. Hello? Okay. Get licensed, which is a great thing. Other than that, any questions that you guys have?
And you're not-for-profit status.
Oh, we are a California nonprofit. We have 501c3 status granted by the IRS.
Are any of your tournaments working alongside USFL?
We haven't had any lately. Obviously, we're committed to supporting USFL, so whenever the promotions are agreeable, we work together. Actually, let me retract that. We have one on Saturday in Sacramento.
15th.
The 5th. Come again?
April 15th.
Excuse me, it's April 15th. It's not this Saturday, right?
Tax day. I think I hear aggression on tax day.
Tax day, right. So we have, and that's actually one of the larger ones that we do and more successful ones. So we have a northern.
That's in Sacramento.
Yes. Right.
Titans Cage.
Titans Cage.
The Titans Cage.
Tax day, okay.
And I think the commission's well aware, and Andy and Mr. Foster is as well. We don't have a lot of doctors in the state, and so it's good when we can work together. We help staff the events together so we can find an agreeable staff that can work everything so it doesn't become financially burdensome on the promoter to then try to staff 2 events. We try to make a cohesive unit that it's not prohibitive. And I think we've done very well with that. I'll let Mr. Frank comment.
Okay. Commissioners, anything for Mr. Steven?
I have a question.
Commissioner, into the microphone, please. Thank you.
Is it working?
It is working.
Yeah, it's on?
It was on, yeah.
Okay. What does, you said there's no injuries of a heightened concern. What does that mean?
What that means is that if there is an injury that we believe the commission needs to know about, that is of heightened concern, there's something more serious. I mean, this is a combative sport, so there are injuries in every event. It's the result of punching and kicking and grappling. Is that there are injuries. People do get Anytime somebody leaves the cage, they are at some level they are injured. If there is anything that is above the normal repercussions of being in a fight, we let the commission know immediately, which is very, very
But
rare.
what qualifies heightened to you? That's what I'm asking. That you would report to us.
Well, it would probably be something as a very serious transportation that required somebody to go to the hospital on an emergency notice that wasn't just procedural.
I can give you a concrete example. When the guy got a skull cracked in Campo, JT was on the phone with me saying, "Look, you need to take it."
Yeah, I had X-rays in Andy within 5 minutes of them being done. So anything where and there are times where we send people to the hospital for just precautionary reasons. I do not let you know that unless we get an ER report back that there is actually something of concern, because there are times where it is ambiguous. The doctor is just sending them because it would be the right protocol. And as then we follow up with the emergency room physicians, we know exactly what we're looking at. And if that is an injury of heightened concern. Now, in this case that Andy mentioned, it wasn't, medically speaking, it wasn't as serious as it looked, but it had a perception that looked bad because it was kind of a scary looking injury. So I still reported that to the commission because I wanted you to be aware that there was although not medically dangerous, it looked bad.
Your skull getting cracked open is not medically dangerous. Are you making medical assessments now there, Mr. Stewart?
This is the ER report.
Michael Williams is not gonna be happy about it, but okay.
There are various levels of that. So, but regardless, you were aware.
That's it, thank you. Commissioners, anything else for Pamela? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, USA Toxins, next, been working, before we get to their representative, just want to let you know, I've been working with Lynette in the office. Commissioner Lane, Vice Chairman Lane, the last meeting, was asking about the database. I've now got to log in.
I think Joe's here.
Oh, yeah, Joe's gonna talk, but I'll just give you an update. I've got, I'm logged in, I'm in that database, certainly can provide, you can log in if you'd like to see it. Just let you know that was the update from the last meeting.
Welcome, sir. Would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Joe Sanders, President of USA Boxing Southern Cal Association.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. When I was called about coming to the meeting, I thought I was just going to attend and listen and learn. I didn't know how to speak, but thank you for the opportunity. I'm specifically prepared to talk about Southern California Association since that's where I reside and that's who I'm involved with mostly. As far as things go with us, I heard the last report, so I'll try to follow along those guidelines. We've been very active over the last year. We had just under 100 sanctions last year. We finished the year with the Silver Glove program for kids 8 to 15 years old. Had an outstanding state tournament at South Amani, and started the year with the Region 8 Championship, which is the largest regional Silver Glove tournament in the country. In Compton, starting the boxing program for the first time out there at the Compton Youth Athletic League with the Sheriff Department. They were a very good host. We had 6 of 7 states reported for the regional championships. Close to 200 kids participated. The champions went on to the National Silver Gloves in Independence, Missouri, where our group, Region 8, won the team title. And now we're back, and our year is getting started as far as our program locally is concerned. Oh, I might allude to last year, we had 2 emergencies in that, just under 100 competitions, and that involved officials who had medical problems.
Of course we're not.
So we're very fortunate that they turned all right. I'm very fortunate to have here my chief official, Mr. Lila Rico, who was one of those people who had a problem in the ring. So she's doing well. She's doing
You
great.
okay over there? Okay, good. Thank you for coming.
Now we're embarking on the upcoming Junior Olympic, Southern California Junior Olympic Championships, which will lead to elimination tournament that will lead to a regional tournament and be held in Indio in May, and then the champions will head to the National Junior Olympic Tournament in Virginia in June. And our schedule was just kind of getting off the ground. First of the year, kind of slow after the tournament, the Silver Glove tournament, but we're getting scheduled. We had a show at Compton on Saturday. We had one at Azteca on Sunday in Los Angeles, and they went well. No incidents report. We're moving forward, and we expect to have a great year.
We appreciate you being here. You getting the support you need from the commission?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Before you go, Commissioners, anything?
I have a question.
Commissioner Ryan?
So we have a letter here from USA Boxing, obviously announcing Ms. Martino's retirement. And the letter is actually signed by Mike McAtee.
Yes.
He's an interim executive
He's the
director.
interim executive director.
He's overall, nationwide, or?
Yes, same as Mike. He's taking Mike's place.
So moving forward, are you you're the Southern California representative, are you the one that's going to be reporting, or is the interim going to be coming in, or is it going to be replacements?
I don't want to, I'll try and give you as straight an answer as I can. I think what happened here is that when they called me, they said that I don't think we have anything significant to report in terms of having the answers. You know, I think they've been in touch with Andy, and they asked me to come and represent.
Okay.
That's why they asked. But normally he'd come if it was essential for him to be here.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
Mr. Chairman, the USFL is next.
Good morning, John Frank, USFL.
Good morning.
So we've had one event so far this year. It was on February 4th in Riverside, which consisted of 22 bouts, and we had no injuries or suspensions on that. I spoke to Dr. Brooks and Dr. Rodriguez prior to the meeting, and our cumulative injury rate from the time we got the delegation, the numbers they're giving is 15.6 per 1,000 fight participants. We haven't had 1,000 yet. We're somewhere short of 700, but that's the percentage that they're giving me. And the injury rate, when they're talking about injuries, it's basically anything that would preclude the fighter from competing either that same day or the next day. So it would form some type of suspension. And that's what they're counting as injuries. Going on to the AB 2007, for the February 4th event, we did get 100% compliance from all parents and athletes. 3 of them did not do it prior to check-in, so we did have them do it on paper and then upload it to the system after that. And we've had all but one coach complete their requirements, and this coach didn't do his background check either, so we got a substitute coach to corner his athlete for him.
Good for you guys. Good to you.
And as far as the February 4th, we didn't have any medical injuries or suspensions, so we did not use that platform yet. They're actually testing it out today as we go on, as we speak. But the platform that did allow electronic concussion certification for the parents and the coach was in place and it did work. You know, I would lie if I said it was easy. I thought I was done hunting down people, but for this, we still have to do a little bit of hunting to get them to open an email and take the test.
A retired marshal is what he's referring to.
Aside from that, I was going to, due to some of the added logistical problems of people showing up without their certifications or their backgrounds, I was going to ask if we can impose a $20 late fee for somebody, either a coach or an athlete that is not licensed prior to the day of the event, just to go to whatever inspector is going to help them negotiate it. And there's a number of things they need to do prior to getting cleared for a license for the coaches that some of the other organizations don't need, like their background check and also their concussion, because we're dealing with the youth. So it adds a confusion and logistical problems when they show up at the event, sometimes right before the fight, saying, hey, here's my coach's pass. And they're not licensed, and they just want to hand over a $20 bill. So maybe to stem that, you can charge a late fee of an additional $20 that may or may not help.
You've been working with Mr. Foster on that?
I haven't addressed it yet because we've only had one event and we approached that, but we can talk about that later.
Good, and let us know if you guys should work out. We're interested to know if that helps.
And other than that, I don't have anything else.
And your not-for-profit status, you can expand.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything from Mr. Frank? Thank you very much, sir. Good seeing you as always.
Thank you.
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Chairman, IKF is next. Mr. Foster sends his apologies. He was not able to attend, and his delegate that he had thought he had lined up, he let me know was not able to attend either. I didn't report. He's done 9 events since the last meeting. 7 have been like full-blown events, and 2 have been the gym training events. We just did an event in San Diego with IKEA Commission did this past weekend in San Diego with Dennis Warner. That's obviously not on this report. Been working well with Mr. Fossum on the pros. Been working well with Mr. Fossum on the pros. Whenever I get a pro card, he and I go over the card together because he controls, for all intents and purposes, he controls the kickboxing database because there's not one. So he's been helping me out with that. We don't have that many pro kickboxing shows, but when we do, that's the first call in. That's all I have, sir.
And they're not-for-profit status and presumably.
The fact they're not for they are well, actually, first of all, they have applied for nonprofit status and they have been granted it. But in seeking the delegation, they did not use their authority as a nonprofit. Business and Professions Code Section 18646 specifically authorizes, and I'll just read this statute. Subdivision B reads: the Commission may, however, authorize one or more nonprofit boxing, wrestling, or martial arts clubs, organizations, and here's the key part, or sanctioning bodies upon approval of its bylaws to administer its rules, meaning Commission's rules for amateur boxing, etc. Consequently, an entity does not have to be a nonprofit strictly, and can be a for-profit entity provided it is also a sanctioning body. And with regards to IKF, they actually are both.
And now they're not-for-profit as well?
Yes.
Good to know, thank you.
Just their California division.
Good.
Right, not the entire organization.
Okay, good update. Thank you. Commissioners, anything on IKF? Foster?
Mr. Chairman, next on my report, I'm pleased to provide you an update on the C3 Logics testing program. The direction that I got from this commission, and specifically from the MAC, from Dr. Williams, Chairman Carvelli, was to make this happen. And I'm pleased to tell you that we are doing just that. In your report, we've tested, I believe it's 159 fighters, and that was when I wrote this about a couple of weeks ago. We tested this.
Where in our report is that?
It's in my report. It's section D of my report.
Would it be after the IKF enrollment? No.
Yes, it's section D on my report.
Page 2 of the
Page-
executive officer's report.
Page
Oh,
2.
back in your report.
Yes, sir.
Beginning of your. Thank you. Gotcha. Also after the budget summary. Yes. It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, no worries, sir. It's right here, sir.
Okay.
So we've tested 159 people. Actually, that number is probably closer to 200 now, but the MAC gave the goal of 300. When we initially came up with that, the goal was to have an achievable goal, something that we didn't know how it was going to work, we didn't know anything about it. Certainly at the next MAC meeting, I think the idea would be to revise that goal. Okay? And not only that, it's to have some further benchmarks as to what we're going to do now that we've got baselines. I suspect by the end of the year, and this is a conservative estimate, that we'll have half of California's licensing, professional licensing population baseline. I'll say that again, half of the licensing population baseline by the end of the year. That's significant. And we're going to discuss at the MAC meeting, the next MAC meeting, which is not this Saturday, next Saturday, the 25th, is what will the ringside physicians or the urologists want to do with that information should one of the people we do have a baseline get stopped again? And how are we going to use that information to help with return to competition? And basically the idea is to protect these fighters' brains. Of course, I'm just executing the side of it, of getting it done. Dr. Williams would be doing the medicine side of it along with the physicians. But from the execution side, I'm pleased to report we're well ahead of schedule. We're going to be able to revise upward. And with this budget change proposal that I got approved, once July 1st rolls around, we'll have additional resources to go with this project.
That's great. I don't know if Dr. Williams, you want to add anything at this point?
No, I think I would, I would just say that, that represents, I think, really significant progress. It's much better than we had anticipated. And if we could get half by the end of the year, I think that would be spectacular. And then obviously going forward, what the commission or the medical advisory committee will talk about is issues like retesting, under what circumstances we want to retest, how we look at this data, and whether it can inform our decisions regarding suspensions and return to fight status and that kind of thing. But the first step is well underway, so I think that's been a great job.
That's great news, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner, please.
So this all started because, we asked the question, the 30 days to 45 days medical suspension that we were giving the Boston seemed kind of arbitrary after actually reading on your website, Dr. Williams, the 27 to 67 days women and men return to play seem to be the going medical research. But once you come back with that baseline, and it's going to be half of the population, isn't the ultimate goal then going to be, let's say, it's Andy's, and we test Andy, and Andy's baseline is going to be maybe like 45 days or 55 days. So we're going to say, okay, Andy, your return to play is going to be 55 days, but we only have half the population tested, and then next year is going to be the other half. Is there going to be an issue, Mr. Duke, with the other half of the population that is going to get the regular 30 to 45 days, whatever the old suspension?
I don't think we want to move too quickly. We even broached this subject at the last medical advisory committee meeting, because there was some discussion about whether we could incentivize people to participate now in the baseline by saying, well, if you do this, then maybe we can reduce your duration of suspension or what have you. I think that the take-home message from most of the neurologists on the committee was, first we're collecting information. We're not acting on information yet. We're collecting information, and we do want to get there. We want to get to the point where we're not saying, based on your testing, you're going to be 30 days or 50 days or what have you. What will likely happen is we'll say you'll need to demonstrate that you returned to baseline prior to being cleared to return to combat. And so that may be 30 days in some people, it may be 20 days or 15 days, but we won't test and then say, okay, you're going to be 50 days. We'll test and say, yes, you returned to baseline and know you had it. And if you haven't, then you need to retest before you're cleared to return to fight.
That's
So
sort of
that's part of it.
that.
Depends on them, right?
I think that would adequately address the issues of disparate treatment, so I think it's really good.
And then finally, Mr. Chairman, just in conclusion of my report, the upcoming event schedule, which you've asked to be a standing item, I'm happy to put this on here. These are events that I think the commissioners may have an interest in attending. Certainly go to any event, but on March 23rd at Fantasy Springs, we have the ESPN show, and this is the return of the ESPN boxing. So I think that's significant. Golden Boy got that contract, and so Golden Boy will, the most prolific California promotion, has now the Estrella and ESPN, and this is their first one of that series, and it's going to be at Fantasy Springs, and I expect more of these type shows to follow. The Ring Star, this is Richard Schaefer's. He did the one back in December with Tom. This one's just him. This is return to competition. I'm sure you saw Fight News, his worldwide tournament that he's working on and actually got done. And I suspect we'll be getting some of those. But this is his first time back. So it's a Fox Sports 1 show. Yes, that is a Sunday. And then on April 22nd, it was listed as HBO, and that's what it was on the event request. It's going to be a paper. Okay. So instead of HBO, it'll be on the pay-per-view. And this is going to be 3 world championships from the StubHub Center. Proving grounds in boxing. Best venue in boxing. And
Tennis arena.
yeah, and we're back at the StubHub Center on pay-per-view with 3 world title fights.
Does that conclude your report, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, does anyone need a 5-minute break, or shall we continue?
Yes, I think it's good.
5-minute break, please. Thank you.
No public comment on that?
Okay. Of course. So before we take our break, we are, public is welcome to comment on the executive officer's report. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Greg Patchell. Yeah, I'm going to try to comment on some of these issues on the budget. I'm still trying to get an answer where that $100,000 from the Neurological Fund went missing and no one knows where it's at. And I had to prove the email, and I emailed all you guys that you received it. I've been fighting for this Doctors Pension Fund and Neurological Fund since 2000. And since Franson's been out here for 16 years, I've been coming and batting in. Finally, the doctors are getting their pension, and finally there's some neurological testing going on. The staff at the California State Athletic Commission, I have some longshoremen, and there's a lot of boxers on the waterfront, and they came up to me and told me they called the Athletic Commission, and they tell them that the money's lost, stolen, or misplaced. I don't know how many boxers are missing their pension fund, but I've been battling for years. Finally, I hope you guys can start paying that. Now, this headgear regulation, I don't understand that. It just pertains to boxing that you have to wear headgear. Is that true?
It's not Q&A.
Oh. Okay, well, the headgear regulation is going through the requirement USA Boxing to wear headgear for amateur boxers. Now, I don't understand why boxers have to wear this dangerous headgear. In MMA, camo fighters, amateur MMA fighters do not wear headgear because it's unsafe. Also, you force headgear on kids that don't even strike the head, and it's unsafe for adults. Why do kids have to wear headgear if they don't even strike the head, if it's unsafe for MMA? So that headgear issue, if you make headgear required for USA Boxing that they have to wear headgear for amateurs, you gotta make headgear for everybody. I mean, I can do a kickboxing event and do a flying, spinning heel kick to the head, and I don't have to wear headgear. I can knee the head and Kyokushinkai karate, I don't have to wear headgear. But you're making boxers wear headgear for the only reason why is it's going to compete for your dollar for pro shows, because people are going to get USA Boxing shows and amateur MMA shows, and you only have to go through the athletic commission.
1 minute at this segment.
Yeah, these delegated authorities, I mean, ITF can hold a kickboxing event with kids as young as 4 years old, they strike and kick the head, and no ambulance or doctor is required. But if I hold a pancreation tournament, I gotta get a doctor and ambulance and I don't even strike the head. The C3 logic thing is a joke. It's not even in the licensing, so you don't even have to have a license to have the C3 logic testing. I mean, you can just push the guy through. There's no requirement to be licensed to do a C3 logic test. And there hasn't been, you guys take money for a neurological event, and there hasn't been one neurological test paid by that commission since 1998.
Also, upcoming events, Roy Engelbert can hold a pro boxing show and take money from a pension and a neurological test. Put amateur MMA fighters in there. Don't even have to go through panel, go through the state athletic commission. And these amateur MMA fighters are bringing in more fans, but they don't get tested for neurological tests. They don't get a pension. I mean,
Please wrap up.
I like to make up. This is a pro fighter's head.
You already made that comment.
This is a pro fighter's head, pro fighter's hand. Amateur,
Greg, you're on the
and
record
this is
already
a pro
today.
amateur head.
Okay, we're over time.
Now, this pro MMA fighter is neurological test and gets that. But an amateur MMA fighter doesn't get no test, and he hits just as hard as a pro.
Okay, you made that point a couple of times.
So,
They go clear. So you're way over time. You have want to wrap up, you can come back.
no, I just want you guys to know what's going on.
Thank you. Any other comments on the executive officer's report? We will take a break for 5 minutes. For 11:30, it would be 7 minutes. Thank you. Again, we are on agenda item number 6, Pension Fund Subcommittee, Commissioners Leon and Ayala. Foster?
Mr. Chairman, I had another meeting with the Pension Fund Subcommittee, Commissioner Ayala, Vice Chairman Lehman. Last week, we developed an action plan. In fact, we're going to work with DVI to obtain mailing addresses of distribution statements. That's been done at that meeting yesterday in Sacramento. So we sent the WBC a list of vouchers. We've been working closely with them. I'm happy to report, and this is just coincidental, right before I came yesterday, we got a package in from the WBC. They found 5 of these vouchers for us. I've been with the commission almost 5 years. I've not saw 5 in 1 week ever.
That's great.
We're making progress with them. And then we're working on doing the press release with the department. So that meeting was scheduled with the DVI. That's been done.
Will that work with the other sanctioning bodies? Have you thought about that?
I have, sir, and I'm looking into it. The fact, and our thoughts for the fact is that WBC is based in Mexico, and a lot of their marshals are based in Mexico. I wanted to start with them, but I'm just going to reach out to some of the others.
Yeah, I think you probably should. Right.
And certainly that's going to be a big hit for us. I'm going to schedule a meeting with the budget office to see about actually directing the DVI research and DVI investigation unit from the pension fund instead of having to hit the support fund. The support fund can pay for some of it, but I mean it's appropriate to pay it from the correct fund if possible. I'm going to talk to them about that, and I'm going to continue to follow up with WBC. I hope the call was good, and we're starting to make some progress.
Commissioner Ayala, would you like to add anything?
No, I think Andy hit all that.
And like he said no, because Andy covered it. And thank you all, including you and Commissioner Lehman, for the time you put in. We're making progress, you feel good about that. Good, thank you. Any commissioners, any other questions or comments with regard to the pension fund?
Couple of things.
Commissioner Kiedis.
One is, Andy, can you ask the Raymond James people to get that report that Commissioner Sauter asked for?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other thing is, to the subcommittee, I've got a friend whose father is on the board of La Gaceta de Tucumán, and then he's also the vice president of Agencia Diarios y Noticias, which is the national censor for all of the mainstream media in Argentina. And they will publish a story in their newspaper as well as TV if you can get them a story about how this pension plan started. But they, and they do broadcasts in Latin America. I gave them a flyer And they said, you know, it's kind of boring with the flyer, but if you can get them a short story, they will publish and they will take it to the TV. And so they cover several countries. It's not, I know the majority of the boxers, you know, come out of Mexico, but there are boxers in, you know, Argentina and El Salvador and Nicaragua and whatever. So if maybe the subcommittee can write up a short background story and get it to them, then we can get it out that way too. That'd be okay.
Great. Any exposure is part of our mission. Thank you.
Perhaps I'll reach out.
Follow up on that, yeah, please. Maybe be part of your report next commission meeting, maybe progress along those lines would be great.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, commissioners, on agenda item 6? Yes, sir.
Any help we can get, any help that we can get from anywhere would be really, because we've been working on this for years. And like Martha said, we concentrate a lot. Mexico, there's a lot, but there's a lot. South America, there's a lot all at there and think about. So anything we can help, anything. So it's something to follow up. Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Fryerson. Can we now accept any members of the public who would like to comment on the pension fund subcommittee? That particular item. Seeing none, we can move on then to agenda item number 7, which is appointments of the advisor committee on medical and safety standards. It's also known as the MAC. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, we alternatively call it the MAC. So, Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, this is really just as simple as just appointing these people for another term to the MAC. I certainly recommend them. Dr. Lisk left. He got a job in Texas, is what I understand. The alternate from last year was Dr. Allende. Dr. Allende's agreed to fill that spot. These people show up, which is a huge improvement. I think a lot of the processes that were put in place, Dr. Williams kind of heading that up on the commission's behalf, has greatly assisted that. I think we're getting a lot of stuff done at the MAC, and I recommend approving these people for another term, these doctors.
Commissioners, Dr. Williams, and
No, I don't have anything to add. I agree with what Andy said. I think that the group works well together. You know, Dr. Allison, I think, still provided good leadership. And he was initially approved for 2 years. So we just need to reapprove the remaining members for a second year.
Commissioners, do we have any other comment before I ask for a motion to, do we have to approve each one or can we approve the slate?
You can approve the complete slate.
Okay.
So moved.
So Commissioners, may I have a motion to approve this slate of 5 individuals: Rudolph Bear Gamboa, Brian K. Bestwick, Diego Allende, Rhonda Rand, and Jonathan Schlemmer.
So moved.
Dr. Williams, need a motion? Have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Ayala. He got it before you. Further comment by commissioners? Comment from the public on this item? Please restrict your comments to appointments to the advisory committee.
Yeah, my name is Ray Castro.
Don't interrupt, hang on. Restrict your comments to the advisory committee on medical safety standards. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Greg Patchell. I'd like to be on the agenda to meet these MAC appointees to discuss the difference between an unintentional strike and intentional. I do an intentional head strike to the head. It is light contact, no regulation needed. If I do an unintentional strike to the head, and if I don't strike the head at all, it is full contact.
Your request is to go on the agenda.
I request to be on the agenda.
That's your third time. You're done with those other comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other members of the public? Please introduce yourself, Dr. Moran.
Good afternoon, Lou Moret, referee.
If there's a vacancy in the future or there's a vacancy now, I would like you to consider Dr. Jim Jenkins, who is a former licensee, retired medical doctor who served as a boxing referee and judge for almost 40 years. And I think he'd be a good addition from the stakeholder side. Thank you.
Dr. Red, have you recommended that he send his information in to?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Could we follow up with Dr. Red? Andy, please, thank you. Any participating physicians, I'm sure welcome in our ranks. Okay, we need a roll call vote to approve the slate of 5, reauthorizes 5 members for the MAC.
Chairman Corbelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson, Commissioner Fryerson,
Here.
Yeah.
Aye. He's staying up.
Commissioner Senior
Aye.
Commissioner Sauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Arnett.
Aye.
6-0, sir.
Thank you. We move on to agenda item number 8. Discussion on the way the commission views the show money and the win bonus in relation to the overall purse and mixed martial arts bout agreements. I presume, Mr. Clark, you will explain what you have in quotations with show money and win bonus mean. Get started and then we can go from there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I hope the commissioners were able to look at the memo I sent to set this item up. Show and win is the way that mixed martial arts is paid. Okay, boxing is paid a purse. The industry typically thinks of fighters winning a purse. That's how much of the public views it. Mixed martial arts, since its inception, I won't go into why, but since its inception, pays a show, and then if you win the fight, it's usually double. You get that again. So it's common in the industry to say, well, what do you get? You get the 10 and 10. Okay. So the other fighter's getting 10 and 10, or could be more, it could be less. They're not the same. But it's based on a show and a win. Couple of points on that. As it relates to a health and safety weight cutting, some fighters have decided the way that the commission has been viewing the show is viewing it almost like it's the purse. Okay, so you're only fined if you're overweight on the first 20% of the show. Okay, so it actually makes a lot of financial sense if you're a fighter to look at our spreads based on our weight classes. Look at this contract, because the remedy for being overweight is already outlined in the contract. And just if you're having trouble making it, why bother? Just show up. You know, if you're over 2 pounds, the doctor's not going to let you run. You're going to you're going to find 20% of your show money. The commission gets 10% of that, the fighter gets 10%. So in the example I gave you on the 10 and 10 fighter comes in, he's heavy. We'll say the other does get 10 and 10. Guy beats him up. He gets 18,000. Okay, because he loses 2,000 off the show. The losing fighter gets 10,000 for losing, and then 1,000 from the 2,000 that was fined. For one thing, this has not been a deterrent. This is not enough deterrent, for one. And this goes into a lot of this issue with weight cutting is webbed around this contract, but it's all interrelated. Okay, and I think for discussion purposes, that there's some things that this commission should consider, because this contract is weaved into the entire fabric of the way this industry is regulated. I think this contract should be changed to attain parity with boxing. So I think the commission should recognize the win bonus as part of the purse, because it's the show and win. The fighter's getting it. That might take some sting off. I mean, if the fighter's getting 16,000 in the example, it might be more of a sting than if the fighter's getting 18,000. Just an example. Commission may want to consider increasing the penalty from 20 to 30%. The commission may want to consider adding a suspension for missing weight, a license suspension for the next fight. What I've been doing in office, and I'm sure you saw in the emails I sent out, I'm working on drafting a new license application that the MAC will be reviewing at the next meeting. The licenses fighters by their weight class. The question is, what's the lowest weight class you intend to compete in? Okay. You have the weight classes that are from the regulations. They check the box. They can go up, not down. Then when they go down, we can go see a physician. To go along with that, it's not just their word and just certifying the weight class. Then we have, because the licensing application is accompanied by a series of medicals, MRI, MRA, all these different things that we require. All these different medicals, EKG, all these things. On the licensing physical, and I want to be very clear, we're not talking about the pre-fight physical. On the licensing physical, it's often done months in advance. Oftentimes, fighters are hydrated, and they have not cut weight for their licensing physical. Okay, they often walk into the physical room, into the doctor, at what they actually walk around at. And I pulled some just to see if I was onto something. The licensing weights are significantly higher than the contracted weight. Okay? So if we put something on the licensing application that that the licensing physician has to agree and certify that this weight class is healthy and able for this fighter to make, and then we talk with the MAC about developing perhaps a recommended top walk-around weight. The number Dr. Wallace and I were talking about, Dr. Ayub and I were talking about 10%. Being added to licensing physical, big recommendation. Be checked off as well. So the ringside physician has all this information provided to them under the license physician on this application so they can check the correct weight class this fighter should be in. That's another step the commission can take to curb the weight cut. Another possibility is random weight checks. I don't think the commission has sufficient authority currently for that particular provision. Certainly, the commission has drafted a reg if it saw fit, but I think that's possible. And then I think there should be a question on the license application: have you ever missed weight before? Because if you've missed weight before, the trend I'm seeing, and if so, by how much? If you've missed weight once, it's a pretty good indication you're probably in the wrong weight class. But if you miss weight twice, I can almost guarantee you're in the wrong weight class. Or you didn't train. Both is bad. So I think mandatory weight class restrictions, which I think the commission already has that authority administratively through the physicians. We move the guys up. And I do this with boxing on a regular basis. And with mixed martial arts, I don't do it so much, and it may be because they're so spread. I'm talking about the weight classes. But like with boxing, I tell the matchmakers on a regular basis, look, they look welterweight. I'll say, listen, I'll give you 54. We're not going to go 47 on this. The guy can't make it. It's missed weight too many times. I don't see what the problem is, and actually, I'm just really trying to convey the issue to you. I have that authority. I'm going to start using that authority to keep these things from happening. But the licensing by weight class will be what I consider to be what we've already done, a game changer for this industry. It's going to further tighten. Fighters are going to take every advantage they possibly can. And I'm telling you, commissioners, these fighters are looking to us to help them. They're not wanting to cut these 30 pounds. They're not wanting to do that. The only reason that they're doing that commissioners, is because their opponents do it. Okay? And that's the only reason that they're doing it. If they could fight closer to where they actually walk at, we know they're going to cut some. I'm not trying to cut a healthy weight cut like in collegiate wrestling that's been done correctly. You know, people cut some weight to make a weight class. What I'm talking about is these 30-pound cuts that we're seeing, and they drop, then they balloon back up the very next day. And then finally, in conclusion, Commissioners, I think that there does have to be, you and I were talking about that this morning, matchmakers. They're the ones offering these contracts to these fighters. I think the focus should be on the fighters, but I also think the focus should be somewhat on the matchmakers for offering contracts to fighters that they know can't make weight, that have a history of not making weight. So an idea that I had for that, through my authority given to me in the matchmaking approval, is I want to know, and I'm going to talk with the database about putting this in, I want to know when a fighter gets assigned to a fight card, what they're walking at that day. Okay? And then, depending on what they're contracted at. So you've got walking versus contracted to make sure that this, now, Commissioners, I'm not naive enough to not know that these fighters are going to sometimes not be as truthful as maybe they should. But these matchmakers, I mean, I understand the matchmakers, some they lie to you. But if you get lied to 1,000 times, at some point, you know that this fighter can't really make that. And I'm concerned about somebody dying overall in the industry for no good reason. This is a pointless reason to risk your health and safety when all we have to do is move the weight class up a little bit and you fight at your natural weight. So that's what I have on this.
Well, thank you. That's a lot of information, and it certainly goes to the comments that I started the thing with, which is hopefully going to lead to a very good discussion. There's a lot of moving parts there. And I'm not sure if you have a specific ask of us for today before we get into that discussion. Do you have a specific ask, or you're like, what do you see as the next step here?
Well, the next step is, I think this was a discussion item. I'm administratively changing the ballot reasons. And I'm certainly wanting the commission to be informed that I'm doing that. I want the commission.
So today is you're informing us some actions you're going to take, and you're looking for some discussion and some maybe some policy direction.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Commissioners, who would like to start? You ready, Commissioner? Please.
Well, I think we began this with the summit, with the dehydration summit, and I think we pulled the trigger on something, but it really kind of wasn't complete because it's, in my opinion, a culture in the industry, and I think it's a good idea to penalize or to add a penalty to the prize money as well, because you're right, they're just going to take a 20% hit and then make it up on the bonus money. But I would suggest that the ask from you should be to do as much as possible, and maybe even not just these 6 things. And I'll tell you why, because you can't, on the one hand, encourage a fighter to not cut so much weight, and on the other, penalize for not making weight. They're kind of incongruous. And then, if you license at the walking around, if you license at, or if you're going to have, if every fighter knows that the walking around weight is at the time of the physical, when they get their license, then they're gonna cut the weight and have, whatever the least amount of weight is at that physical. So everyone's gonna cut weight and then go to that physical and be, at the lightest at that physical. So they're gonna cheat and be 20 pounds lighter at that physical and then gain it back the next day because they know they're gonna be stuck with that weight class. So, you know what I'm saying? So they're gonna know that's gonna be the weight that I'm gonna be stuck in for the rest of the year or the rest of, the next 6 months or whatever it is. So the things that we do, they're gonna have to all be in conjunction. You just can't do one thing. Add a penalty, making walking around weight, the licensing weight, it's gonna have to be a whole group of things because you're attacking a culture. And I don't really understand why we have the authority to do random drug testing, but not random weight testing. Is that something that we have to have legislation for?
Regulation. Legislation would not be required, but regulation would be.
But if we have the authority to do random drug testing, why don't we have the authority now to do random weight?
I have not researched that yet.
It seems to me that the two, you do have the right to do one, you should have the right to do the other without actually going and having to go through a process. And I also think that, if you're having to move, in boxing it's much easier because we have 17 weight classes. In MMA, you don't have that many. So if you're having to move a person up a weight class, you could be moving them up 20 to 30 pounds. That's a lot. That's a lot. So maybe another, and we only managed to add how many weight classes after the summit? Like 4, right?
We did.
Oh, we didn't add any. We meant to add 4.
And to that point that you brought up, taking the ABC, that point that you just brought up, the ABC Medical Committee will be meeting soon to talk about bringing these up, to change the unified rules to these weight classes.
I think that's absolutely necessary because it's going to be very tough for you to say, hey, listen, I'm moving you up a weight class. You need to, 30 pounds. That's going to be, in some of the weight classes, that's not going to make so much difference. But in the upper classes, that's going to make a huge amount of difference to say you got to now jump 30 pounds to compete. That's going to be a big, big problem for some of the athletes.
Let me just explain to the commissioner, just so you have some background. What we're looking at doing is changing it by tens. Right now, 155 goes to 170. 170 goes to 185, and 185 goes to 205. There's a lot of room in between those weight classes. Now down at the lower, we go by 10s, 25, 35, 45. And the idea is to, at least the proposal that came out of the Rules Committee initially was to move 70 to 65, add 75, add 95. But this is more of an idea from the Unified, from the ABC. And certainly, I couldn't agree with you more. That certainly has to be done, and I agree with everything you said. This has to be an all-of-the-above type approach because I've given this a lot of thought. If you do one, it kind of counteracts something else. To your point about the cutting for a physical, we certainly gave that a lot of thought when we come up with that. So I think that would happen to some degree. It would not happen like they're cutting out for a weight. Their pulse couldn't be what it's showing up at. The doctor passed them in the physical. There would be signs of dehydration. We disqualified a fighter just this past weekend from the fight. His pulse at rest was 135 beats a minute from dehydration.
That's true. They wouldn't get licensed.
Commissioner Shannon, I did want to actually more specifically address you asked the question with regards to the legal authority for doing random drug testing. versus, what's the difference between that and weight. Under your general statute, 18 BMP Code Section 18640, which provides the authority for the commission to basically regulate everything with regards to the health and safety of people. But it is very broadly written, and pursuant to that authority, you have regulation, section 303, which deals with drug testing. The second sentence of that reads, all athletes licensed by the commission may be required to submit to testing for prohibited substances at any time, whether in competition or out of competition, and whether or not they have competition scheduled. That's the authority for the drug testing. We have no such authority absent promulgating a new regulation under the same general statutory authority of BMP Code Section 18640.
One dealing with general health and safety, though. And I don't have mine with me, but I think we have one dealing with just general health and safety of the fighter, and we might be able to put this under that. And if not, maybe we can, think about emergency, doing some emergency type. But
Can you give us a review of the regs and see what our options are?
Yeah, I certainly will, but I do think it would require regulation.
Okay, well, please look, and then maybe give us some options of what our path would be. Maybe let's get some of the other commissioners to come back if you'd like. Commissioner Souter?
These remarks probably derive from naivete or ignorance. I can only believe that if you got a group of people together in a conference room of a motel at a Chicago O'Hare and said, we're going to create this business called mixed martial arts. And we're going to design what we think is the most thoughtful, medically correct, competitively beneficial set of rules one can have. I find it hard to believe that they would end up with the rules that now seem to be operative. I sit around and say, why don't you and your colleagues and the knowledgeable people on this commission sit down and create a California manifesto? Or what, I don't want to go to Martin Luther on this, but we're dealing with this vast, entrenched, wealthy culture. And yet a lot of things are being done within that culture, to a layman at least, strike me as dumb and detrimental on any number of levels. Why don't we sit down and write what we would perceive to be the most beneficial, responsible, constructive set of rules and regulations in this area, and say that that's what we as a commission are going to take to the industry as what should be adopted and altered in that culture to make this a more equitable, sensible sport. I'd like to see you write every one of these topics we discuss and say, what should it be? And put it together as whatever form it would take, and put it out there as something that would be advanced by this athletic commission for the enhancement of mixed martial arts.
Thank you for those comments. We'll work on that at the MAC meeting. Get that together.
I mean, I just think it should be codified.
Thank you, Commissioner Souter. Commissioner Frierson, do you want to add anything?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. I agree with the Commissioner Souter. Is that we have the ability, since we started Miss Martial Arts in 06, was that 06? I was here in 06. We started, and we came into this with our tail between our legs. We didn't know anything. And it's about time that we start trying to get back together. Like, for instance, I think I discussed this with you, Andy, about New York. Just started. And then New Yorkers are not, I'm an old New Yorker, New Yorkers are not dumb. So why they step back for so long before they started this martial arts? I was even asking you about the paid review. Who is getting the most money out of this paid review? Are the fighters, the promoters, or what? Something's wrong with it. So I agree with you that we should get together and try each one of these, try to work with the commission and try to get something that we could work with. I would certainly volunteer to be one of the people on that commission if we do something like that, because it is sort of obsolete. We have to change that. Of course, in boxing, we had the old Henry Armstrong, who had 3 titles. He was the first one who had 3 titles: featherweight, who got fought, featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. And it really wasn't that much to go up and down. They didn't, and you must remember, he didn't do it for like 6 months or 5 or a couple of days. He didn't do what Joe Louis did, fighting somebody every month. And then we had Pacquiao came along, and he did the same thing. But it was a lot of years in boxing, because you know I'm the boxing person. I love this martial art. Don't get me wrong, except that it's a different generation now, different cycle you go through. So I think he's absolutely right. Before we leap into anything, we should get together, some kind of a committee, have our chairman get us together, and we can do that, and work with you on that.
Thank you, Commissioners. You're asking for a subcommittee perhaps to focus on this? Okay, let's talk about that. Commissioner
So I think the way I picture this, Andy, as you were mentioning your recommendations in terms of alleviating the issue, which is dramatic weight cuts, which leads to a number of health issues and what have you, as we've seen all over the news, as you know, as recently as a couple of weeks ago. The way I picture it is, if we push this policy, something else is going to pop up. There's always a way around it, and so you push one button, the next one pops up. You push this button, the next one pops up. So you're right; it's got to be a comprehensive approach. But I wonder. Well, I think my favorite idea is the 10-pound difference as opposed to the 15 by weight class right now in MMA. I think it would make a difference. But and I may be very far-fetched on this idea, but I think part of the issue now is that we're giving fighters way too much time to make up the weight. And I know we've recently had some policy changes where folks are able to weigh in the day before. Is it 24 hours? Was it 48 hours now? Whatever.
30 hours.
So 30 hours. So the issue to me is right there. You're giving people an opportunity. You're giving them 30 hours to go from, I don't know, if they're 185 pounds that day, it would be 200 and something the next day. You're giving folks an opportunity to basically, you're giving them a path and an incentive in a way, in my personal opinion, to reach to fight at one weight class and make up that 20, 30 pounds in a period of 30 hours. What would happen, and again, very far-fetched, and I know it goes totally against the industry, what would happen if people, the day of the fight, would have to step on the scale? You know, because if you look at an MMA fight, Bellator, UFC, what have you, you always see the fighters back there warming up with their trainers, getting ready for the fight and the whole thing. What would happen if they have to weigh in when they're warming up, like, I don't know, a couple hours as they're warming up before their fight, the day of? I know it's not being done now. I know it's totally against the industry, but what would take us there? Because at that point, we would not be giving fighters an opportunity to make up that 20, 30 pounds. I've heard, some people can make up 10 times in a couple hours, but again, it would be to the detriment of their performance, because if you're trying to cut down to, let's just say 185, the day up, a couple hours before your fight, you're not going to perform very well. So there's a big disincentive for fighters to actually do that kind of thing. And I think it would bring a little bit more honesty in terms of what you mentioned, the true weight. What is your true weight? And kind of keeping that consistent. When we talk about the industry in general, how to lose weight effectively for the general population, physicians and others will say it's better to lose a pound a week, it's better to lose gradual weight over the course of the thing. Here, there's this huge path, in this case 30 hours, where people say, let me just lose this bunch of weight now and then get back on within a day and a half. So I want to hear from you and maybe others as to how far-fetched is that idea to have the weigh-in even the day of the fight, as opposed to the 30-hour period that we're currently granted.
I think what you just said, certainly we've looked at that. The ARP actually recommended that at one point.
What is the ARP?
The Association of Ringside Physicians. Let me tell you the concern that a lot of people have with that approach is the idea is, especially at the beginning of that, some of these guys are still going to try to cut. Some of them are still going to cut. They're not going to be rehydrated properly, and then they're going to get hurt inside the cage. Now that's the thought process behind it. I agree that may be the ultimate solution in making sure that these guys fight, but they actually walk around that. And there's no question about it. Nobody's going to dehydrate themselves on fight day. You would think. I mean, but these fighters are doing stuff that I would have never thought they would have ever done. Now, the fact that we had to ban IVs by regulation because fighters were using them to rehydrate back up is evidence of the fact that we didn't think about this back in 2000.
It's evidence of the fact that it's worth the money. It's always about that.
Well, let me add to my comment about it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I remember as a youth football player, it was 7th or 8th grade, I had to, I think if you were 12, 13 years old, and you were going to get on the football field, in order to protect the rest of the children, I was one of the bigger kids. I had to weigh under 135 pounds. And I actually had to strip down right before the football game and ensure that I had to be at 135. You were granted, if you were 14 years old, which you should have already been playing freshman high school football, you had to be under 125 because, based on the age difference and what have you. So it's being done in youth sports, at least in a sport like youth football, and I'm sure, obviously wrestling is a whole different deal, but, it's for the protection. If you're doing that kind of, or exercising that kind of policy to protect you, and if the ultimate goal for this commission and in general is to protect the fighters, I think it's an idea that ought to be explored, and I know that nobody does it currently, but if California is to be sort of the leader, as we have been in many other areas, then it may be at least one piece of the puzzle, maybe not the entire solution, but one piece of the puzzle to kind of start exploring, shortening the amount of time that a fighter has to recuperate that advantage, which is the weight, because that's the incentive right now, based on what you just summarized around there. So I know we're not going to resolve this today, but I think it merits a discussion.
Let me just on that discussion item. Let me throw this out there because certainly we've had a lot of conversations about this. There was an idea that was floating around for a while with some of the doctors that you have a weigh-in like we have there, and then you have that second weigh-in day at 5, and then you cap the amount that's able to be gained. Now, kind of the flip side of that, you don't want to limit people to rehire, that's like a cap. But if you cap their weight class on this side with the ringside position, then you weigh them, you let them rehydrate some, and then you weigh them again for their second day. I mean, again, this is what this is, a discussion. That might have some, benefits. The promoter still gets their show. I'm not talking about their weigh-in shows. That's what they're looking for. The fighters are pretty close to where they're walking at. And then you weigh them again to ensure that they're pretty close to where they're walking at.
Let's hear from Dr. Williams.
No, I don't have a lot to add. I agree with this concept of multiple approaches in terms of regulation, and I like the list of things that you listed here. A couple of points I would make is one, we were saying earlier that we're fighting kind of a culture, and culture says that if you cut weight and then rehydrate and have a weight advantage over your opponent, then that should afford you some advantage in the fight. But I think that there's some debate to how much advantage you have, because we also know that that activity is going to have some significant effects on your reaction times. It's going to have some significant effects on your speed of mental processing, and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure that cultural expectation of advantages is actually true. Like a lot of what we talked about at the summit and what we talked about in the MAC or what have you is that it's probably not true. It's kind of something that's kind of filtered into the culture, but it's false. So then we get back to something that we talked about before, which is how do we educate all the stakeholders, and that's the fighters, the matchmakers, what have you, and tell them, okay, here's what's really true medically, scientifically, so on and so forth, and educate in a way that we get change in behavior, because it's really difficult to fight culture. Once things have kind of been ingrained, everybody kind of just believes that's so. So one question I have is some of the efforts we've made so far in terms of education with our brochures, with our videos, what have you. Are we doing anything to track whether or not it's having an effect? Are we changing minds and changing opinions? And hopefully with that, we'll be changing behavior. And if not, then we should be looking at alternative ways, so more effective ways of changing behavior with our education. We talked about this a while back with respect to head injury concussion, which is that, facts and fear are really, they're poorly effective with respect to changing behavior. You can tell people the truth, but it doesn't matter. What you got to do is you got to give them some optimistic outcome with the desired behavioral change. So I think there's a carrot and a stick aspect of it. We're working on the stick aspect with regulations and rules and what have you. We've got to do that. That's effective and necessary. But we also got to, we got to figure out the best carrot too, and figure out how we can educate fighters, other stakeholders in ways that we get this kind of desired behavioral change.
Before everybody bring our comments together from the various commissioners, anything else you want to add at this point? I think I heard you.
I think, in looking at this, we sort of have to weigh the health and safety of the fighters with the stakeholders, because stakeholders, they want to have their weigh-in, they want to have their weigh-in time, the televised weigh-in time. They want to be able to have their TV time. So to move that, then the only way into the day of the fight, I don't think this is, we have to have their buy-in. So it's kind of a balancing act. And then also, I think with the cultural aspect, so many of the athletes in MMA come from wrestling, and a lot of this, is a wrestling culture, and it's entirely possible that we may have to reach out, to the colleges or even to the high schools and start there, because that's where a lot of the weight cutting comes from. A lot of, I don't know, it's a thought.
perhaps we could, invite anyone from the public who'd like to comment on this now. Let's do that next.
John Frank, USFL. So we've, can tell you about some of the things we've done to combat this and some of the things that I think fighters would like if it could be imposed. The first thing would be, instead of focusing on fixed weight classes for non-title fights, look at having matchmakers set up catchweight divisions. And what we do is we don't set fixed weights. We'll identify the weights of the two fighters, and we'll make a bracket, a minimum and a maximum weight within the weight spreads that we're allowed. Most fighters would probably like to do that, and that would be also would also help to do a same-day weigh-in as well. So instead of setting a 155, 125, find out who the fighters are, match them on where they walk, and set a catchweight division. This way they won't have to cut, and they'll be within a reasonable bracket. With that, you can do a same-day weigh-in without them cutting weight. The other thing that we do is, if the fighter is still overweight within the spread, but within the limits that we allow as far as the maximum weight spread, we penalize them a point. So it hurts them in competition. We actually, since we're a point system, we do 2 points per pound. So if you can impose a 1 point per round, basically they start the round 10-9, if they're overweight, that would give them good motivation to be on weight. And the final thing that we're trying to impose with that new database that we are developing with the smart cards is to have the athletes remotely weigh in and log in their weights a few weeks out, and have the matchmaker be able to monitor that. This way it looks like he's not going to make weight, they can look for another fighter, rather than being surprised the day of.
Great, thank you. Excellent points. Thanks, John. Okay, we have to wrap this up somehow. Let me try to put together a little process for us, if the commissioners agree. So we'll talk about a bunch of moving parts. So Andy, you mentioned something about the ADCs and you guys together addressing this. When is that?
Having the medical committee address weight classes later in the month. We'll talk about the weight classes. I believe this will be on the agenda for the July meeting at the national conference in Connecticut.
Do you have any sense of what the Association of Boxing Commissions and the Medical Committee which you chair, is that right?
Yes.
Will we headed on this?
Sir, since it passed last year, both committees, these new weight classes, and it was tabled last year, I suspect it will pass again, based on just health and safety reasons, especially with the recent, and it's not getting better, epidemic of weight misses that we have. I suspect it will be passing again.
So if the ADC in July approves the weight classes, one of the things you're talking about, that seems to be an overarching point, appropriately so. Does that mean that the UFC will have to follow or abide by those weight classes, or they still can decide not to?
Well, they can still decide not to. Currently there's a, and I believe I'm telling you right on this, 125-pound division. I know it's right on that in the unified rules. UFC doesn't use those. Doesn't have that division, they don't have the depth for it. But they will be in the rules, and it's been my understanding that the UFC and Ultra both use the unified rules. So if it changes, there's certainly depth in 170 and 155. You know that there's depth there. So I mean, I can't speak to what they are going to do.
Other than that, it would be up to a state commission like ours to set those rules, and they would have to abide by those to hold events in our state.
They wouldn't do.
Right, which is a whole other issue that has to be looked at. What affected what we would do on possibly pushing out these, and I don't mean that in the sense of, it's all about the dollars of revenue for the commission. It's also all about California staying involved for health and safety reasons to lead the way and not push people away. Okay, so that would be interesting to track that. So we have a MAC meeting coming up, and you guys are going to be talking about this in detail, is every detail, okay. Is it the commission's pleasure to maybe form a subcommittee to help maybe squeeze down and identify some of the issues? Because I think Commissioner Martha and then Commissioner Sal have both said, you know, this has to be comprehensive. Because Martha's right, there's some counterintuitive points on your 1 to 6, right? We can't penalize guys coming in and gals coming in and missing weight. That fosters that behavior, that bad behavior. If you don't, you know, so there has to be some kind of comprehensive look at this thing. I know you know that. So what about that, Commissioner? Is anyone interested in serving? I know Commissioner Frierson volunteered to serve on the subcommittee to perhaps address this. Hold some meetings with our amateur organizations, with John Frank, JT Steele, maybe be in touch with, you know who the stakeholders are. Any other commissioners be interested in working on that?
Would it make sense for Dr. Williams, since
Sure. She's volunteering in there, so.
Martha's hard to turn down.
Sorry? Yes, she is.
Well, I mean.
Sorry? Okay. So we're gonna, there's no action item here, so please, then we're gonna take a break here for lunch. But I don't know, do we feel like any subcommittee on this, or do you think that MAC and participation in MAC can start to address and identify and maybe kind of come up with the next set of action items for the commission to look at?
I think both. I mean, I think the subcommittee makes sense, and then MAC can certainly look at things from a medical standpoint that can help inform the subcommittee and vice versa.
Okay. So that's another volunteer. We have two. Would you like to be part of that? Okay. So why don't we do that? Why don't we, yes, sir.
Sir, we have 3 individuals. We have 3 we have to post.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then
right.
they can't. So how about just
Okay. All right.
that's right.
Okay. So then we brought in a creative another bunch of administrative burden. We have enough already. So, okay. So why don't we establish a subcommittee to advise an Andy and our executive officer on how can we put this? The discussion of the recommendations toward addressing the problem and challenge of weight gain and loss and so on and so forth. We'll come up with something better as we move along, but to include Commissioners Frierson and Dr. Williams. Okay? And then we'll work with you, Andy, to put them together on some phone calls with some stakeholders to help us to further define. And anyone, of course, can participate on the calls and add their good points. So that's a good next step.
Commissioner Carson is helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And so then I would like to see this again on the next agenda as either, certainly at least as a discussion item, to update us on the things that Matt has been doing and the subcommittee has been doing, please. And also leave with this final comment before we break for lunch here. I understand Commissioner Mayala's comments about the things that are done in amateur sports and then collegiate and high school sports about weight, things like that, where there are a lot more rules and administrative bodies and oversight experience, and where people are willing to follow the rules for the right reasons. I think the real difference is here, not that anyone's avoiding, is this is all about money. I mean, and that's a big problem for me. If you're dangling a bunch of money in front of some athlete, and then they're going to have to be willing to jeopardize their health, particularly if you're young, to go and try to earn that money.
And they don't think anything can happen to
They don't think anything can happen to them. They're not educated on the impact, certainly on the long-term impact enough. I think we're addressing that. But I think as we move along, we have to keep that in mind. It's always all about, in professional sports, about that person, about that money. And this show money thing is a workaround. That's a contractual workaround. That's all that is. And if there's something we can do about that, at least call them out. We should constantly be doing that. And I encourage you to do that. I mean, come on, give me a break. That's an absolute contract workaround. Boxing's got this figured out. It's a purse, makes sense. There are no incentives, disincentives other than to train and win the fight. I mean, this is a workaround. So I think if we keep those things in mind, I would encourage you all and it'll help you to perhaps find ways to address these things to think about how to John doesn't have to worry about that, right? John Frank doesn't have to worry about it personally, his vice president. I think it's something that we do.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
One question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we don't, do we have a long meeting after lunch? Or we just have one more item? Is there any value to just doing the last item if that's it?
No, of course. I'm open for that. I was going to ask, so thank you.
Yeah.
We have agenda item 9. Proposed language to amend regular examination. Is that a quick one?
Yeah, that's quick.
That's quick. And then we have the petition for the Hunter Hill event ballot.
I'm good either way, but I
Those
just
two.
raised that possibility.
How do you feel like the timing for the item number 10? How much time should we allocate for that?
Well, that all depends, and we certainly have it. We just got to make the projector work. It depends on whether the commissioners have a chance to review the videos that I sent you, or if you didn't, and if you want to see it again.
You got a chance to review it? You got it? Yes. Then we can probably proceed. It's fine. I mean, that would be great. I don't think Commissioner Carson, unless we'll see when he comes back. I'm assuming that he'll be okay with that.
Okay.
I have a power bar for him. So then, if it's the pleasure of the commission, we'll proceed then. That's great. Do you need a restroom break at 5? Anybody?
So we'll be done about 1:30, you think?
Yeah, sounds like it. Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 9. Review and approve to withdraw proposed language to amend section 280 of Article 6, Division 2, Title 4 of California Code of Regulations, examination of boxer applicant. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, this was a request from Sophia. There's been significant changes to this, especially as we developed the See-Through Logics program, the changes in the appropriation. The bottom line is, with these changes, we'd like to get them included inside this package. And this package is actually scheduled for the MAC agenda to talk about the language, because at the last meeting, Dr. Williams mentioned that he wants to have some kind of language included that we can certainly not use, but like the C3 logics or something like that. We didn't call it by that name, but something like that be included in the licensure process, or at least be able to be included in the licensure process if needed, and then to use that information for licensing purposes. And that's not a 15-day change. I can't just throw that up administratively, do that without public. So the idea is to withdraw it. Let Sophia fix it based on what the MAC comes up with, the direction we have, and then bring it back to the commission so it's clean.
Okay, I think that's pretty clear. We want to withdraw.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Duke, what kind of motion do we need to effect that?
You just simply need a motion to simply withdraw the proposed regulation 280, and we will provide the Office of Administrative Law with that notice. This provides the Commission actually a rather significant advantage. As Andy had stated, we'll have a cleaner package, so to speak, from the beginning, and it will make the rulemaking process much easier. To do it piecemeal now, we would have to do probably several 15-day notices, which complicates the whole process and is much more difficult for Sophia to handle. If we withdraw it and then renotice it, we actually have another year to go. So, whereas right now we'll be pushed up against the deadline by August.
Okay, I'm asking then for a motion to withdraw this regulation, please.
So moved.
Second, Senator Martinez made the motion. I heard Commissioner Sauer seconded it. Correct? Any further discussion or comments or questions from the commissioners? We'll now open that in this item up for the public to comment on the withdrawal of the proposed regulation known as examination of boxer applicants. I don't see anyone approaching to make public comment, so I will ask Mr. Foster to call the roll.
Chairman Carvelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Senior
Aye.
Commissioner Sauer?
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Aiello?
Aye.
It's 5-0, sir.
Approved. Thank you. Okay, No, Commissioner Fryers is back for our final action item here, agenda item number 10. Will be the review and approval of petition to change the decision for, is it Jamoke? Is that correct? Hunter versus Kayland Highland Hill at the Dragon House event on January 7, 2017. Mr. Foster.
Commissioners, I certainly think you've had appropriate time to certainly have reviewed the two videos I sent you. Mr. Hunter caught Mr. Hill in an armbar about the middle of the first round. Certainly looks to your executive officer to be tapped. I had it reviewed by John McCarthy, the head referee of the Association of Boxing Commissions Training Committee, California's head referee, pretty much the head referee for the entire sport. He certainly thinks, and he wrote so that he tapped. It's very clear that he tapped. The referee who officiated the bout actually has on record here and also that he did tap. He went back and reviewed the footage. He just was out of position, the fight moved. It was a bizarre situation where the tap happened, the referee didn't see it. But it's really as simple as that. This isn't exactly like but the referee missed a headbutt. The referee missed this is the referee missed this is happening in the fight.
And you've sent us, can you explain what you've done to provide us the information you need?
I've sent you a YouTube video, which is the actual fight footage. YouTube video is a little bit a better quality, but not as zoomed in. And I sent you the cell phone video. Okay, cell phone video is pretty zoomed in. It's quite clear, and the YouTube video is quite clear because in conjunction, the evidence is really overwhelming.
Are any of the parties here to have anything to say about this?
Sir, I don't see him.
Okay. Well, I don't know if the commissioners want to maybe start with a motion then, and get right to it. So we have a recommendation from our executive officer to change the result to a no decision. Do you want to talk more about that, or is that?
I think it would be an unfair period of justice to change the guy who won the fight to actually losing the fight, even though he tapped out. Okay, was that a referee that missed it? Referee outside, licensed referee. However, I do think that based on the evidence provided, a no contest, no decision type outcome is appropriate in this situation.
So can I have a motion to, if anyone's inclined, to accept the recommendation of our executive officer and change the result of this bout to a no decision?
Well, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah, I don't want to get involved in a discussion with my distinguished colleague to the right about instant replays and what one does about it. What commonly, if this, I presume this is not the first time this has ever occurred.
No, sir.
What is the practice in the sport for this kind of situation?
I've had it happen one other time as the executive of the commission. What happened in that situation, you showed a video, very clear what happened, and the commission voted to make it a no contest, no decision. That's what happened. To be honest with you, sir, this is not as common as you would think. It's happened, that's why I know about it, but it's not super common to actually miss a tap because there's a couple of things that go involved with the tap. One thing, if you tap out, most of the time when that happens, the fight's over. Like the guy's in a position that his arm or his neck or something's in such a bad shape that he wants out of the fight. And what happened in this situation was his arm was to the point of breaking, and then he put it down and he got pressure relief, and the referee didn't see it, so the fight continued.
I
have one other question for you. Does, Kalen Hill, is he aware of the, request, change to the decision?
Yes, sir, we sent them both, letters. It's in the back of your packet, both to, Mr. Hunter and Mr. Hill. But I've not spoken to him on the phone, I just sent him a letter. From my understanding, the promoter of the event, Mr. John Lowe, has spoken to him. But I've not spoken to him verbally.
Do you know if he protested at all, or said, no, I didn't, or yes, I did?
From what I've been told, he didn't say that, but I've not spoken to him myself.
Well, I'm probably wondering too, Dr. Vince, if they knew they could come and deal or argue. Did you let them know?
Yes, sir, the letter that we sent them,
Invites them to, okay, thank you. So I'll ask again if we could have a motion then?
I move to follow Andy's recommendation.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Shinner-Quidez to accept the executive officer's recommendation, change the result of this bout to a no decision. I have a second from Commissioner Allen. Any further commissioner conversation or questions or comments? We'll allow any now and welcome any members of the public to comment on this bout, this matter. Without seeing any, I will ask Mr. Prosser to call for a roll call vote.
Chairman Carvelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson,
Aye.
Commissioner Shinner-Quidez. Aye. Commissioner Sauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Aiello.
Aye.
6-0,
Unanimous decision, thank you. Okay, that's agenda item number 10. Agenda item number 11, public comments on public comment on items not on the agenda. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, which I try to apply fairly to everyone, so we will continue to do that. So anytime anyone would like to come up and make a comment, we're going to limit you in a range of 3 or so minutes to make your comments. So I see Mr. Paschal approaching. Introduce yourself again, please, sir.
Yeah, Greg Paschal. I'd like to be on the agenda to discuss pancreation versus sports MMA in the next meeting, so we can get some answers on it. So, like, if I do a pancreation tournament, I gotta go through county to do adults. I gotta go through US adult to do a kid tournament. So if I call it sports MMA, same rules, but with the kids hitting the head, I don't have to go through no regulation. That's considered light contact fighting. So I'd like to get a clarification. I mean, why if I call it sports MMA, I can do it with no regulation with head strikes. But if I do a pancreation tournament, we don't strike the head, and we have to go through regulation of CAMO and USFL. If I can be on the agenda so we can discuss the reason why for that.
Thank you for your question. Any other members of the public would like to comment? Please, sir, come on up and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Boo. I'm from Ventura, California. I'm a Muay Thai gym owner. I also train fighters that compete under the IKF pretty regularly. I had a couple of things that came up that I just wanted to bring to attention because it seems like they kind of go roundabout when I'm going with communication with IKF on this. This issue is resolved, but it's something that happened at an amateur fighter from out of state. They fought in another country as an amateur, came to California, and registered with the IKF, was approved by IKF to fight an event. The fight got pulled because the amateur event, the fighter pulled out. Shortly after that, we submitted him for another event. It's within a couple of weeks. We got an email back from the promoter saying that he had a letter from the head of IKF that they were a pro fighter because they fought in Thailand. So, and my main question was, why only Thailand? I never got an answer on that. This is something that went on since November of last year, and it just got resolved just in the past couple of weeks. The head of IKF, Steve Fossum, had mentioned that there was a council that was reviewing their fight from in Thailand to determine if it was pro. Their main thing on their website is for IKF is that pro fighter is somebody who's seeking a fight purse, or somebody who requests a fight purse or receives a fight purse. And that fighter, we made very clear that it didn't fit either of those situations. But it did get resolved. But during that time, I noticed that I felt like a lack of communication. There's no one that I was able to talk to in regards to remedying that situation. And like I said, now it's done, but it took I emailed every single day for like a month straight and didn't hear anything from them. This also brought up something else that happened. Like I said, that was the issue that was resolved. I'm happy in that fighter is approved to fight as an amateur. The other thing was there was a required fight here as delegated by IKF. There is basically it's on one particular brand that they allow for elbow pad for Muay Thai, so like use elbow, but for amateur we have to wear elbow pad. Then we have to wear the shin pad too, which is something that you can use for kicking for amateurs as well for protection. There's plenty of brands that were used through the state before IKF stepped in, and I'm just curious why none of them were asked for approval, like there's the other brand that they're using with IKF. Not even the promoters knew about this for certain events that come up, and they required this particular brand of equipment. And not even the promoter knew about it. Now they do, because there was a big thing. But I just wanted to make you guys aware of that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it. I hope you're communicating with Mr. Foster.
Yeah, plan on it.
Anyone else? On any matter not on the agenda? Seeing none, unless commissioners, well, we have next meeting scheduled for May 16th, which is this year's agenda item 12. Are there any comments from the commissioners on the next meeting or its location? Sorry? The day after your birthday, as today is the day after mine. That's a thing, right? We pick a day after birthdays.
Well, I'll be 29.
Is this a Northern California, Orange County meeting?
Did we determine location for May?
So it's Orange County.
It's an Orange County meeting. Is that okay with the commissioners? There's nothing set in stone for us.
It's what?
Nothing set in stone, but we have it designated for that same meeting we did in Orange County at the Orange County Fairgrounds where they have the OC Fight Club is what it's rescheduled for. Commissioner Sauer? Okay,
That's
you?
fine with me.
Okay.
I think anything outside this building is welcome. This place is just wrecked.
Okay, with that, nothing further, I will thank everyone and call this meeting adjourned.
Am I right or am I wrong?